Welcome, everybody, to the Commercial Music Show. I am your host, Ben Graham, and today's guest is the wonderful Claire Smedley-Dye, self-made musician, music teacher, and alumni of the Commercial Music program here at Idaho State University. Claire, thank you so much for coming on the show. How are we doing?
So good. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, of course. So as alumni of the Commercial Music program, why don't you just start by giving us a rundown of what your experience was like and, anything else you would like to say for maybe incoming students to the program.
Oh man, I adored my time in the commercial music program. I was kind of one of the OGs. I was there during COVID when everything was taking off, and I was there when we were all practicing in one room with all six of us, each on
Yeah,
a different instrument, playing each other's songs, and then have watched it kind of bloom into this massive program. And I'm stoked that it's just taking off and it's just going to keep growing. But I joined the commercial music program like about the end of my sophomore year of college, and I was so close to like transferring to other schools. Because I wanted something very similar to the commercial music program. And then I met John Armstrong and realized that the program I was exactly looking for was starting that year
yeah,
at ISU.
yeah.
And so I feel super like lucky to have met him and to be like just involved with the program.
Mhm.
But no, I've just I made so many friends. I wrote so much music that I'm very proud of, and I have an album that I wrote and recorded and produced by myself to show for it. So it's an incredible thing, and I would be surprised if you could find anything that remotely resembles that program anywhere
Yeah,
close to Pocatello, Idaho.
right.
So,
Yeah. Awesome. So tell us, how long have you been a musician? How long have you been in the music scene, kind of writing and playing music?
oh man, I mean, I grew up playing music. Me and my parents put us all in a family band when we were all little kids, and we were in Pocatello, like playing the fairs and all that stuff since I was 5 or 6. So I've
Yeah.
been gigging for a very long time, but I didn't start writing music until about my freshman or sophomore year of high school, and
Okay.
then I started doing the open mics like at Station Square, and there's another one at the Union Tap Room. So I started going to those fairly regularly and just experimenting and writing more music, and then I got to ISU.
Awesome. Yeah. And then could I ask what kind of led you to choose ISU versus like other schools? Because you obviously had
Yeah.
some intention with that school. So what do you think that would be?
Yeah. So growing up in Pocatello, I think most people would tell you that they don't want to go to ISU,
Yeah.
which unfortunately I was one of those people, but life circumstance uh, kind of landed me at ISU. Um, the other thing that really drew me to ISU was actually Kathleen Lane, who was a voice professor at ISU, and I met with her, and she just changed my view of what ISU could be for me, and what my future would look like, or my potential could be
Okay.
um, from coming to ISU. So she really sold me on the idea.
Right. Yeah. And so you had great faculty. You had lots. Who would you say was like a mentor to you? Like before you reached the commercial music program, who was your main mentor at school?
Definitely Kathleen Lane.
Okay.
She was incredible to me. She just took me under her wing and taught me to love all things classical music and
Yeah.
all of that, and still was even. I mean, I finished a voice degree with her, and she retired the same year that I graduated, and so we kind of finished off together. But yeah, she was like a huge inspiration to me, and
Mhm.
the main reason why I came to ISU.
Awesome. And so then your transition to commercial music, meeting John Armstrong and kind of learning how he teaches, was that a huge change for you, or was it how did you adapt to that?
massive change. Remember the first time I ever heard about it, I was sitting in like the choral office up on like the third floor of the building, and I met this girl named Katie Callister, who is still a really good friend of mine and ended up being my accompanist that next year of school. But she talked to me and she's like, "Hey, have you heard about the commercial music program?" And I said, "No, I have no idea what that is." And she's like, "I'm here specifically for it. You should go talk to John Armstrong about it." And I
Hmm.
was like, "Who is that?" Okay, I'll go find
Yeah.
him, go talk to him, you know? And so I met with him in the studio, like most incoming freshmen do, and
Yep.
he talked me through the program, how it was in its early stages, and how it was going to become an official program the next year of school. And so,
Hmm.
um, so that's how I got introduced. I always love. I mean, at that point, I had written so many songs, and I have loved gigging and performing so much that I
Hmm.
was this close to trading schools because I wanted a program so that was more specific to music production. And so it was just like, for me, like heaven sent when he was like, "This is what we're doing, and we have a studio, and you have to have your own band, and you're gonna make an album when you graduate." And I was
Right.
sold so fast.
Yeah, and so you also have lessons with him as well, right?
I did have lessons
Yeah.
with him.
Could you like describe
Yeah.
an average lesson with Armstrong, like what you would normally do?
Yeah. I had a couple different types of lessons with him. I had a semester of more like they're more like music theory lessons. So like working on
Hmm.
songwriting and working on I really wanted to get better at like piano voicing, so he helped me a ton with that. And then another huge we spent an entire semester working on a jazz band, a big band score for one of my songs. Um, which was a massive amount of work, and I he's a genius about that, so I'm like grateful that I was able to have him as a mentor for that. But so
Yeah.
we talked about production, we talked about songwriting, we talked about writing charts and scores for every instrument under the sun.
Hmm.
um I mean, we never ran out of things to talk about, you
Yeah.
know.
Right. Yeah. So awesome. That's really cool. So looking forward, now that you're kind of done with the program, what's on the docket as far as songwriting goes? What actually, let me ask it like this. What do you still want to accomplish in your musical career?
Oh my goodness, that is a hard question.
Huge
No,
question,
it's
I
not.
know, but you
It's
can
a
take
huge
time to answer
question.
if you want.
Yeah, what do I still want to accomplish with my music career? Well, I'm only 23 years old, so I feel like I have a mountain to climb of all
You
the things
have
I'm going to
you have a lot of
accomplish.
time.
Yeah, and so my first goal right now is I'm working on another album, um, which is exciting. I When I made my first album, I sorted through probably almost 400 songs, like just like cutting and cutting and trying to find maybe like the best of the best, but not even the not even the best of the best, because there's still so many songs from that first
Yeah,
initial thing that I want to record, but just the best songs that I thought would mesh together for an album.
yeah,
And
right,
so there's still so many songs that I need to go through on that first initial like batch of songs I wrote,
hmm,
and decide what needs to go on the next album. And then from there, I'm still writing. Like I am never going to
right,
stop writing music. So how do you
yeah,
decide what goes where? you know?
yeah, exactly. And so you
So,
kind of mentioned like a weeding process. Do you think
mhm.
every musician has their own kind of weeding process when it comes to like sorting through, things like voice memos or like old notes, that anything a musician uses to keep track of like songwriting? Do you think that's the same for everyone, or do you think that it's like it varies?
Mm, I think everyone has their own version of that.
Hmm.
But I know like not everybody writes the mass amount of songs. Like not everybody has to go through 40 pop songs before they find like the one that's
Yeah,
worth recording. Some people are
right.
just better at writing something that's good the first time they write it. That's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
pure raw talent. Um but I mean, I would be amazed if there was someone who just like wrote an entire album and didn't have any kind of editing or sorting or, you know, no kind of process like that. I think most
Right.
people who write music have some kind of editing process,
Hmm. So then for young songwriters, maybe for songwriters that are still in high school or maybe are just getting into college, do you have
Hmm.
any piece of advice to give them about like making an album or like, starting from scratch or just writing songs in general?
Absolutely. No, so me and my students talk about this on the daily, because a lot of them want to be songwriters, but they have no idea how to get started. And so I tell them, hey, like the first thing that you should do is go find a poem that you really like, and just like go sit at the piano or find a guitar and just
Mm,
write a little melody or a little chord progression or something that you can use to help you take this poem and make a song with it. Because most people, what holds them back, I mean, most people can kind of sit at the piano, and even if they don't know that much about music theory, they can sit at the piano and tinker until they find something they like. But the thing that holds them back is usually the like words part of it, if they're looking to write some kind of pop or song with lyrics, right?
mhm.
Um, so that'll be my first piece of advice: is if the lyrics are holding you up, don't let that hold you up from
Mm,
songwriting. Like you
yeah.
still need the experience of figuring out, hey, how do I sit at this instrument and find something that I like to listen to, or how like most people just never start that process because they're so scared of writing lyrics. So
Mhm.
that's my first piece of advice. My second piece of advice is, once you start writing lyrics, just recognize that most things you write in the first year or two of you being a songwriter are probably not worth keeping. And that seems really like, maybe like rude or blunt to say,
Right. Yeah, yeah.
but
Right.
I think you have to recognize that that's the truth. Otherwise, if you get so set on the first 10 songs you're going to write are going to be like money makers, you'll never
Hmm.
finish them, you'll never write them, because you're going to be so perfectionist about it.
Yeah.
So you need to just get everything, get all of your ideas out on paper, out recorded in your phone or something, um, to start like creating room in your head for all the good ideas that can come down the road with a little bit more songwriting experience already in
Right.
in your pocket.
Yeah.
So that's what I always recommend to people.
Right.
Is
No,
just
that's
do it. It
that's
doesn't matter if it's good or bad. Just do it.
yeah. That's great advice. Just get started, right?
Just get started.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing's going to
Great.
happen if you just worry about it.
Exactly. Well, that's some stellar advice. So I wanted to bring something else up. This is kind of switching topics here. So with an ever-changing music industry, we hear new songs every single day. There's
Hmm.
so much music out there. I want to know what you think about this. If you could change anything about the industry, the music industry, what would it be and why?
Oh man, what a good question.
Yeah.
What would it be and why? Um, I would do a lot of things.
Just
um,
yeah, just lay it
but the
on the
first
table. It doesn't
thing,
have to be just one thing.
yeah, the first thing I would do is is kind of go after platforms like Spotify and iTunes, and and either take them off the market or somehow reverse technology,
Yeah.
because even though like technology helps musicians and we can make like music that people 20 years ago would never have imagined possible,
Hmm.
um it's a blessing and a curse, because now, unless you have hundreds of thousands of streams on your song, you can't really make it that much of a career,
Mm,
songwriting and producing, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Unless you're the producer, unless you're the one in the booth doing all of the mixing and mastering, then sure, you can make good money. But if you want to be the
Yeah.
artist, you have to not only be a songwriter and a musician and an instrumentalist, but you have to also be a social media influencer, and you have to be all those things. So I
Mm,
would change that so fast about the music industry. I'd go back
hmm.
to records, I would go back to tapes, I would go back to CDs,
Yeah.
before I would ever recommend that streaming platforms be used. I think that most people feel that way,
Hmm.
but I think it's a big deal to most people who know anything about music production or songwriting. It's a really big
Yeah.
deal.
Nice.
Um, what else? I would create more venues everywhere.
Mm,
I
yeah.
think and that's that's probably like the small town person in me talking that,
Right, yeah.
like, if I want to play with my band, okay, here's the 4 or 5 venues in town that you get to choose from, and they probably won't pay you, and you don't get that good of a time slot, and you have to be there till 3 in the morning to make any money, you know? So
Yeah,
I
right,
would change that really quickly as well. I know it's not as big of an issue in bigger cities, but how
right,
many big names do you know that came from small towns? A lot of them come from small
right.
towns, and
I
I
mean,
think a
and
lot more
it's an
people.
issue in any, I think it's an issue in any kind of city when there's starving artists just trying to make a living with, playing and writing music. I think
Hmm.
even more so in small towns as well. So that's a good point.
Hmm.
Speaking of small towns, Pocatello, Idaho State
Hmm.
University is based out of Pocatello, right? Is there
Hmm.
some way you could make a change in Pocatello as far as venues go? Or is there something that others could try to, change together in Pocatello to kind of improve the music scene
Yeah. So this question gets me excited because
there?
my another one of like my musical goals is not only to like produce my own music, but to help others learn how to produce their own music, and
Mhm.
before they get into the commercial music program.
Yeah,
And so
right.
I don't want the first time somebody hears about EQ or compress, anything like that. I don't want the
Mhm.
first time they hear those words to be inside of John Armstrong's classroom.
Right.
And so one thing that I'm planning to do in the next couple of years is actually start a music academy here in Pocatello.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
which I'm super excited about. But a big goal of that is to feed back into the commercial music program with all of the kids that come through my program, and then also for that to be another music venue in town. So they
Mm,
would be just music happening all day long. We have kids coming in the mornings or the afternoons for lessons, and then the evenings there's some startup live band that's going to be playing. Um,
mhm.
Somewhere that maybe doesn't pay the musicians, but is a very like free space to come and just experiment. And then if you want to
Right.
go make money, then go to these other venues. But if you just want a place
Yeah.
to come experiment or something, that's my goal. Is I'd love it if I could start one of those, and then if maybe 2 or 3 other people could start more of those in town, I think that would get the ball rolling really quickly on the music
Mm.
scene here in town.
Awesome. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Is this always been something you wanted to do, or is it something more recently that you kind of put together?
Yeah, no, my career goals changed pretty drastically about halfway through college.
Yeah.
And
I feel that.
we've had these conversations, but I came to ISU to be a music educator. And so
Mm,
I in high school I fell in love with choir. In middle school I fell in love with band. And so when I came to ISU, I looked at the options. I'm like, okay, you can get a vocal performance degree, a Bachelor of Arts, or you can go get a teaching certificate. And I said, I want to be a choir teacher. I want to go get a teaching certificate.
mm,
But I realized within 2 years of being in the program that, I'm not sure if I really want to go work for someone else. I'm having a lot of success teaching by myself and all of that. I'm not sure that I'm willing to sign up to be, uh, have somebody else control any part of what
yeah.
I want to do as a music educator.
Yeah.
And I mean, nothing bad against our school district or school districts in general. I think what they do is highly respectable and we need them.
Hmm.
But what I do is not very traditional, and I didn't want anybody telling me what I can and can't do. And
Yeah.
so and so I ended up dropping music education, and that's when I decided, you know what, we have to have some kind of facility in town that can find kids like me in middle school and high school and give them what they're looking for. Because if
Yeah.
I had found some kind of school like this in Pocatello in high school, I would have like begged my parents to put me there all day long every day.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
and so that's when kind of my career goals changed.
Okay. Nice.
Yep.
That's very cool. So you have a song that you want to play for us. It's an original. Could you tell us a
Yes.
little bit about it, the writing process, and the meaning of the song and all that?
Yeah, I love this song. It's called Crystal Skies. It's on my album Under the Moon. If you haven't heard it, go check it out. It's out on all streaming platforms, everywhere you can imagine.
Awesome.
So Crystal Skies. This is a song that I wrote in about 45 minutes, which the best songs all happen like that.
Yes,
I
they
I don't
do.
tell this I don't tell this to everybody because I know everybody's songwriting process is different. But for me, if I can't complete a song in about 30 minutes to an hour, then it's pretty much trash for me. I'm probably not going to
Interesting.
come back to it. Or I can instantly tell like I don't know if this is going to be worth very much because it's not just flowing out of me like a normal song would.
Hmm.
And so I wrote the song really quickly. Actually, I'm looking at the lyrics. September 15th, 2022. That's probably not that accurate. I think it was before that. Probably the last
Mm,
time I edited the note or something. Um,
yeah.
but I remember I wrote it really quickly. My mother-in-law was in the other room. My husband was in the other room, and both of them like periodically without me, like with me, like in the living room, like writing the song, they'd pop in and be like, "I really like that one. I really like that one." And so
Hmm.
uh, I had a band practice with my band the next day, which unfortunately this is before the time when the amazing Ben Graham here was in my group. I had a different pianist at the time, but I brought it to the band. I said, "Hey, here's the lyrics. Here's the chord progression. Like 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go."
Hmm.
And the band just like it was a magical moment. The band just like put it together. We ran it 2 or 3 times. We're like, perfect. We're playing it at the show on Friday.
Hmm.
It just happened really, really quickly, and so I love this song. But uh, like lyrics are always like super fun for me. The lyrics
Hmm.
are very like 2020 2021 Claire, where
Yeah. Yep.
the the guy I liked, who's now my husband, was out living in another country at the time, and everybody was locked down for COVID, and all my high school friends that I still talk to had moved away or done other things with their life, and so this is definitely a song about wonder and possibilities, and I'm kind of like sometimes I think about like how did I write that song at such a kind of a low point in everybody's, like in our music careers, in our school careers, and everything. It was not a highlight. It was a pretty low point, and so I'm pretty like happy with it that I was able to make such a like a hopeful song and a forward thinking song at that time in life.
Hmm.
So anyways, I have loved this song. It's really fun to play live. It's really fun to listen to on the track.
Awesome. So let's hear
Yeah.
it. Here's Crystal Skies by Claire Smedley Dye.
How often do you think of me? Is it simply, or do your thoughts run free? How often
Well, that is just a wonderful song. Claire, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show and for joining me in this conversation today. It's been quite a pleasure.
Oh man, it's always a blast hanging out with Ben. So anytime.
I'm your host, Ben Graham, and you've been listening to the Commercial Music Show.